What do all of these have in common? First of all these images are found from all over the world.
All those images that you see are from the same country, Assyria, and from the same approximate time period between the 9th and 7th centuries BCE. Just saying.
But the similarity, they're all carrying this certain device. So this could be pointing to some kind of advanced ancient technology.
The device is called a bucket. They even refer to it as such. And we've even found some in the archaeological record that match.
If you were to attend a history class at any university in the world, you are taught that structures like these buildings are all carved with copper and stone chisels.
They were made with a lot more tools than just chisels.
This ridiculous speculation insults the intelligence and logic of a 3-year-old child.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend. I didn't know you were that old.
The problem is that if they were to admit that modern history is incorrect, I wonder what all those Harvard people would think about their degrees.
Well, you don't go for a degree if you think all of history's been figured out already. You go for one so that you can contribute to its revision, because it's a progressive field that is constantly updating.
What would you think if you paid over $150,000 to go to an Ivy League school and you were taught complete bullshit about our past?
You don't get taught what to believe. You get taught how to find it out so that you can do it yourself.
The Great Pyramids on the Giza Plateau were not meant to be used as tombs. I will die on this hill.
Thank you for your service.
This is called the Valley of Kings, and guess what? This is where pharaohs are buried. There have been a total of 170 known pharaohs in Egypt.
Yeah, and you know how many kings were buried in the Valley of the Kings? A couple dozen. I wonder where the other kings were buried.
And you know how many pharaohs have been found inside the Great Pyramids? 0. 0.
And you know how many kings were found in their tombs in the Valley of the Kings? 2. 2. They were robbed. And the Egyptians tell us the pyramids were robbed too.
So next time someone you know tries to pass off the pyramids as being the tombs for the pharaohs, make sure to do a quick Google search, because any Google search will show you that they were not meant to be tombs.
Oh, well, a Google search. I mean, what more do you want, right? That proves it.
I believe that ancient civilizations were actually more advanced than we are today. And the reason why we don't have any hard physical evidence of it is because they lived in accordance with the Earth. They didn't produce any non-biodegradable waste. Their science was based off of what was already provided by the Earth, and they were much more consciously aware.
Ah, okay, so this great advanced society was so in tune with the Earth that it left behind no physical evidence of its existence. So how do we know it was there?
But the biggest part of the conspiracy is I think that the people in power right now, they know this and they won't tell the public, because then we'll start living like these ancient civilizations did, and the system at which these powerful people gain more power will crumble.
Ah, so not only do you know the civilization existed without evidence, the powers that be know that it existed without evidence. And somehow they persuaded archaeologists and historians and scientists all around the world to lie about it, and no one has ever spilled the beans. Doesn't seem far-fetched at all.
Proof ancient civilizations were far more advanced than we thought. First, let's talk about the ancient Egyptians. This is the Orion's Belt, a star constellation.
The stars can be pretty consoling.
Is it a coincidence that it perfectly lines up with the pyramids of Giza?
It not only lines up with the pyramids of Giza, but with my latest tic-tac-toe game.
Now, what's crazy to me is that the speed of light and the altitude of the pyramids are the same number.
Well, the pyramids have different heights, so they would have different altitudes. Oh, you mean latitudes? Well, yeah, if you chose a latitude that's not centered on the pyramids, and if you assume the Egyptians used the meter before the meter was invented.
It's also mind-blowing that the pyramids line up with the motherboard of a modern computer.
Oh, so like the Earth is a giant PC. Whoa. Maybe the moon is the mouse. And the ocean is a coffee spill on the keyboard.
Baluchistan, Pakistan. Another sphinx can also be found, clearly of a similar antiquity, supporting the suspicion claimed many times on our channel that a civilization which far preceded the ancient Egyptians actually built these amazing pyramids.
You ever notice you only see photos of it from one angle? I wonder why that is.
And many attempt to claim that its familiar shape, along with the surrounding environment's artificial appearance, is mere coincidental.
I know, it's ridiculous. Sure, geologists have studied the area and have shown that it was created by the activity of 3 tectonic plates converging there, but if it looks like it, it is it. This potato looks like a foot. Coincidence? I think not.
Thankfully, however, an equal number of individuals who have actually visited this site have actually concluded the complete opposite.
Tourists, you mean?
Graham Hancock being but one individual.
Ah, yeah, tourists.
Was there an Egyptian civilization in the United States?
Well, there is this place in San Diego that makes some delicious fava beans.
This is Monk's Mound, found in Collinsville, Illinois. Its base is about the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Well, the mound is made out of soil, but its base is almost the same size as the base of the Great Pyramid, so it's gotta be Egyptian, right?
If we look at a map of the Mississippi River, we can see many cities named after mounds and many cities named after Egyptian cities like Cairo in Illinois and Memphis in Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee was named in 1819 and Cairo, Illinois in 1836, but maybe the ancient Egyptians left them hieroglyphic instructions and told them what to call those cities. Oh wait, Cairo and Memphis aren't ancient Egyptian names.
The mound builders of the Mississippi also created mummies from their dead. Where did they learn this practice that seems so Egyptian?
They were mummified naturally, but you've seen the movie The Mummy, right? Mummies are Egyptian, common knowledge.
Egyptian hieroglyphic words work more like an acronym in English, like the phrase FYI or an acronym such as CIA or CBS.
This is the hieroglyphic acronym for TMHH. Too many hits on the head.
If we think of each hieroglyphic word as an acronym, rather than having a phonetic value, a new layer of interpretation appears.
This is great. You don't have to know hieroglyphics to read hieroglyphics. You should see the layer of interpretation that appears when we think of them as emojis.
I can show that certain key glyph shapes came out of cosmology. Once we agree that the sun glyph means what it means, and that's all traditional meanings, it's hard to argue that the word month doesn't say the moon makes an orbit.
Well, that's not the Egyptian word for month, and the first symbol is upside down. Also, why is the sun in an acronym about the moon going around the earth?
What if ancient civilization had technology like Atlantis that looks something like this, where there's pyramids with energy flowing out of it?
It's what pyramids do.
A floating Merkaba?
The walking Merkabas are just not as impressive.
Things that we wouldn't be able to understand right now.
That image is hard to understand. Looks familiar, though. I recall seeing it in my aunt's living room, just above the mantel with the chakra crystals on it.
Or maybe this is where we're headed in 1,000 years or less.
I think you may be there already.
Has anyone ever noticed that some buildings have windows built into the floor? These buildings are all over the world. I know you've seen them, you just didn't know what you was looking at.
I'm sure the poor people who live there know what they're looking at.
And if you can see the windows on the left or the right hand side, they're buried on the ground, facing a wall. The whole point of having a window is to look out.
Well, or receive sunlight, but we don't want the plebs living in those half-basement apartments getting any of that.
So this building, after being excavated, this is what was discovered.
And all this time no one ever went down the stairs?
That all of these buildings are actually covered, buried in mud. You just can't make this up.
Well, you could.
So that means people was just walking on the top part, not realizing there's a whole story of floors underneath.
And they don't sink in the mud? Amazing.
Because, and this is something that doesn't get talked about outside of academia enough, we don't actually know when the 1st century AD or CE was.
That's not really a subject of discussion inside of academia either.
Because they didn't really use that for timekeeping purposes until the 1500s.
Yeah, and we don't know where Mount Everest was either, because they didn't call it Everest until the 1800s.
So we don't know when the 1st century CE was, because they didn't start using it until the 1500s.
Well, this is just an idea, but you could count backwards. You know, if somebody writes that something happened X number of years ago, You just count that number of years back from when they wrote it. The first century was 2,000 years ago, but you don't have to call it the first century if you don't want to.
This is an Egyptian relief known as the Dendera Lights. Many people have suggested that the hieroglyphs in this relief are actually depicting some sort of electrical equipment.
I think you mean art. The hieroglyphs are the writing next to the pictures, which say that they aren't light bulbs.
The Egyptians were definitely fine artisans. They could have easily blown glass and pulled a vacuum within that glass.
They could have, but then we would have found remnants of the glass-making workshops in Egypt. Or glass.
Next, all you need to do is add a drop of mercury, and you have a mercury arc rectifier.
That's it? Wow, science is so easy. But what did they do with the live snake inside the light bulb?
Mercury arc rectifiers are capable of converting high voltage AC current into direct current.
So the ancient Egyptians developed the same two systems of delivering electrical power that we did. What are the chances?
One thing that remains constant in all cultures all over the world, the sudden advancement of human civilizations. It went from primitive to advanced literally overnight.
If by literally overnight you mean centuries, then sure.
In every single one of these cultures we see three things. Number one, androgynous beings were the first humans.
How many of these have been found? Oh, you mean stories. Many stories. Some stories. A small minority of stories.
Creator gods making humans out of clay and their genetic material.
And their genetic material? Are you sure you didn't add something in there?
Androgynous fish beings bring advanced knowledge to humanity.
I think you mean hermaphroditic fish beings. And look, here's another one.
Example 1, Lepenski Ver in Serbia.
Looks just like a fish. And my Aunt Sophie.
The Dogon tribe in Africa, where these strange androgynous fish beings brought advanced knowledge to the tribe. The star system Sirius, where the tribe says these fish beings are from.
They don't actually say that they came from Sirius. Sorry, Cyrus. And where did these fish beings swim before they came to Earth? And any relation to Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy?
This is how humans were created according to the ancient Sumerian tablets. Beings called the Anunnaki came to Earth in search of gold. On their home planet, gold is turned into a liquid, which is used to create a protective blanket around their planet's atmosphere.
And you read this in Sumerian tablets? Or you took some Sumerian tablets?
In their mitochondrial Eve studies, it has shown that humans have just sprung up out of nowhere around 300,000 years ago.
I hate to break this to you, but when scientists are speaking about mitochondrial Eve, they're not referring to the first human woman.
They refer to this as the missing link.
Oh, there's a link missing here, all right.
They created humans by splicing their DNA with the DNA of the most intelligently capable life forms native to this planet, human descendants.
They created humans by splicing their genes into human descendants? You know, sometimes I think humans aren't the most intelligently capable life form on the planet.
This is the Ben stone. I came across it at the old Egyptian museum, and it is not made of anything from this planet.
It's made of black granite, which is found in abundance on Earth.
Yes, it is a stone from space. They could not find any of the materials that made up the stone on Earth.
There's a well-known black granite quarry at Aswan in Egypt.
Check out mystery number 2 in this clip.
Try to cut it. Never happened. Use a laser cut. Never happened.
We can't even do this today with our modern technology.
Oh shoot, I was just about to order Grandpa one of these engraved granite gravestones. What a scam.
This needs some explanation.
This was the capstone to the Black Pyramid of Amenemhet III of the Middle Kingdom. Look, I know the tour guide who brought you through the museum was kind of lousy, but if you looked behind him, you would find this information on the caption.
These are the top 3 most craziest ancient artifacts found on Earth with possible alien origin. In 1936, a couple was taking a walk and they noticed this wood with iron or something protruding from its core.
Gee, I wonder what it could be.
And it turns out it is 400 million years old. The iron part actually dates back 500 million years old with carbon dating.
Wouldn't it have been easier to carbon date the wood?
This could be alien technology.
Yeah, I mean, we could never invent such a tool.
The Antikythera mechanism, nothing even close to this kind of technology has been found in ancient Greek or anything close to that age period.
Except that they wrote about having such a technology.
Again, there are perceptions that this could have been alien technology that had brought to the Greeks somehow.
Those aliens were so generous.
The Baghdad battery, pictured here, was way before any other kind of battery was actually discovered.
So aliens came here in spaceships, and they gave us this as a battery.
It was recently leaked that these pyramids were found off the west coast of Cuba.
It's been in the papers since 2001.
Why I say recently leaked instead of recently discovered is because they were actually found in 1998 by a couple underwater explorers from Canada,
who are quoted as saying, "It would be totally irresponsible to say what it was before we have evidence."
For some reason, the Navy and Cuba kept it hidden from the people
by allowing it to be posted all over the internet.
And look how close it is to the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, it's practically right inside of it.
Many theorize that the disappearances over the Bermuda Triangle are actually caused by Atlantis.
The destroyed city?
Once in a while, a stargate or their power kicks on, and this is what's causing the planes and boats to disappear.
Oh, they sunk into the ocean so fast they never turned off the power.
Have you ever heard about the lost city of Atlantis?
No, tell me more.
Let's take a look. If those pictures look familiar to you, you may have had a past life there.
I have seen those paintings before. Am I an Atlantean?
But I'm gonna tell you a secret. You can find out for sure through your birth chart. We're gonna be using asteroids today to find out if your soul was in Atlantis.
Asteroids are the most trustworthy of the planetoids.
I'm gonna be using Nicki Minaj's chart as an example. What stands out is the fact that the asteroid Poseidon is almost exactly conjunct her south node of past life. And then the asteroid Oceania in Aquarius is sextiling her Sagittarius stellium.
Yeah, what more proof do you need?
Everyone knows who this is. Now have a look at his hat. Does it remind you of anything?
The Paracas people were popes. By the way, did you notice that this hat looks like a larger than human brain?
Now, the Vatican have actually got telescopes. Two of them, some of the most powerful you can get. And one of them's called Lucifer.
Then why are you showing us an article titled, "Relax, the Vatican didn't name a telescope Lucifer"?
So you've got to wonder, the Vatican, do they actually know? Because they're not really looking up for God, they're looking up for something else.
And all this time I thought the telescopes were searching for God.
So why would the Vatican have two of the most powerful telescopes? And that's because they actually are fully aware of what is going on.
So they spent millions on these telescopes to find the aliens they already knew existed? This hat also looks familiar. I'm still trying to place it.
Whilst some say they were carved and crafted by the Rapa Nui people between 1250 and 1500 CE, many other researchers suggest some elements of their history differ from what we have been taught.
Oh, well, if other researchers who are not the experts say it, I'll go with them.
Almost every Moai out there comes with the massive heads, and most of the time they are about as large as the body of the statue itself.
People say that about me all the time.
A fine example of the quality of art that we can find on this planet.
I like the art we found on other planets better.
Many people are unsure of how something so incredible could be moved, with almost every Moai statue being far too big to have been moved back in the day.
Yeah, we have absolutely no idea how that could have been done. No idea.
They would have been nearly impossible to move or carry once erected.
It's impossible. Until you show me people actually doing it, I will not believe.
Did you know that in 1684 that the Vatican removed 14 books from the Bible?
If by the Bible you mean the English Bible, and if by the Vatican you mean Protestants, and if by 1684 you mean 1666, then, kinda.
When it was first translated, it had 80. Now it has 66.
When it was first translated into Latin in the year 400, the Catholic Bible had 76 books. You're thinking of the King James Version, which had 80 books to begin with. And yes, in later versions, they took out the 14 books of the Apocrypha.
Now it has 66. That's a convenient number.
66. Trent Alexander Arnold.
And weirdly enough, Jesus' name was pronounced Laesus before these 14 books were removed.
It was? Laesus.
But why were these books removed? Some theories say that it just didn't fit with the narrative of the Roman Catholic Church.
Well, that would only be people that didn't know you were talking about the Protestant Bible.
It's funny how they always say that people from old civilizations used to just sacrifice each other, and every building was a temple.
Joe was sacrificing Fred, and Fred was sacrificing Sally, and they all lived in temples.
Those ancient temples was ancient technology. I know it's hard for you to believe.
Oh, I believe. I believe.
We don't build buildings like this anymore. Because what if I told you that these ain't even temples? These are power stations.
And we have power stations, so that's how we know. Whatever we do now, that's all they could do then.
These ain't just built with technology. This is technology.
They must have made the temples with other temples.
They must serve a purpose. And that purpose, my friend, is orgone energy.
I majored in orgone energy at Clown College.
This is a real thing.
Yep, it's a real thing.
Being like right on the edge of something you know is just would be fantastic, and you're just missing a piece of the puzzle that all of a sudden just locks in and makes it all make sense.
The evidence.
My hunch is that ancient human beings during the Pleistocene were far further along than what academics claim, and they had basic understandings of not only this,
Windows,
but also physics, mathematics, astronomy. This early thriving civilization was completely demolished by the Younger Dryas, just the largest cataclysmic extinction event to happen in the last 5 million years.
According to independent researchers.
And when our history books basically begin is just picking up the pieces of what was before to rebuild civilization again.
What about the prehistory books?
During the Pleistocene, Africa was green.
They've discovered evidence of human habitation there.
And have we done enough digging in that ocean of sand to claim that there is no puzzle piece?
They've discovered all kinds of puzzle pieces, just not the ones we're looking for.
There's an underground pyramid in Alaska that's suppressing consciousness.
Suppressing?
China carried out an underground nuclear test in Lumpur. While they were analyzing the seismic activity, they happened to find a pyramid structure twice the size of the Pyramid of Giza.
And this showed up in their seismological readings?
Eventually, engineers and military servicemen who low-key worked at the pyramid site—
low-key, that's my favorite kind of work—
came forward with this story publicly and told how they ventured deep underground.
The story comes from a retired counterintelligence officer who said he saw it on TV.
Wait till you hear that Tom DeLonge, the former musician from the band Blink-182, said on a recent podcast—
well, that adds weight to the story—
that he knows someone from the Pentagon, which by the way he does.
Oh, the three of you had a beer together one time?
And that based on their findings after studying this pyramid for so many years, they discovered that this structure is suppressing consciousness.
I think you may have stepped a little too close to the pyramid.